Hello, I'm Nick Shaver with TorchPrep, and we are tackling question number 47 on test 3. So I'm going to pause so I want you to pause the video and reread question 47 before we jump into it. Okay, now that you've read over the question, we're going to tackle this with a word problem strategy. Now, this is question number 47. This probably would be one you would skip and come back to unless you just boom see what they're asking right away. So, looking at the question, there is a key word that they use, a big hint that they actually give you. The ACT giving you a hint. Let's celebrate. They said, what does the factored equation tell us? The factored equation. Good, so when I look at this equation and they're telling me, what is the factored equation? I'm like, well, I guess they're telling me what to do with it. Let's factor this equation and see what it tells us. So now, to factor this equation, we put our two parentheses, right? And then we come up with all the different options and all the different ways to do it. For 48, right, what are the different ways to multiply when you do our FOIL method, multiplying the last to get to 48? We could do 6 times 8. We can try that one out. And we know that -2, so one's got to be a -2, and then one's got to be a 1. Right? And don't know the answer yet. So I'm showing you, like, this is the thought process to go through it. And so now let's test this one out. So -2. So we have -2 here, -2t, perfect. We know that works. Multiply, so those are the first. Now the oil part, the O and the I, so the outer one, so -16. And then we have +6. Oh my goodness, really close. Check this out. When we add the middle, right? So we add -16. +6, we get -10. So I got really close on my first guess by lucky. I mean, I could have done 12 times 4, 4 and 12, right? But I happened to get really close. So to make this into a +10, what should I do? I should move this negative so that my -16 is less than this becomes a +16, so it's a bigger number, and my -6 is smaller. So now let's see if this works. 16t minus 6t, boom, now we get our middle number. Checks. So now this is now my factored equation. And we need these both to be positive to get to our +48. So now, we got down to our factored equation. And now what it's asking us is, what does the factored equation tell us? Well, usually when you do factored equations, you're solving for you're looking for the zeros of the equation. Because if you imagine this being a graph, it's when those zeros are. So, and looking at the answer choices, they give you some hints. They're talking about maybe when it reaches the ground, when it's a maximum height, or the units. And when you're looking at a factored equation, it's not giving you the max, right? It's giving you the zeros. That's why we use a factored equation to solve for a 0. So let's do that. Let's see what our t tells us. So we have, let's set our 2t plus 6 equal to 0. And then let's solve for our t here. Subtract 6. I'm not going to write all the steps. Subtract 6 from both sides. So now you have 2t is equal to -6. Divide by 2. T is equal to -3. And this other one, just subtract 8, divide by negative. So t is equal to +8, right? Because we're subtracting 8, 2 negatives, make it to a positive. Now, this is where it's tricky. D and E, yeah, D and E, I was making sure they weren't J and K. D and E they're both 3 or 8. So if you got the 3 and you're like, oh, perfect, that's letter D, you're gonna get it wrong because this is not when the ball reaches the ground at 3, because this is a -3. Like, you haven't even thrown the ball yet at -3. You start counting when you throw the ball at 0. And they also say +3, so that one's not right. But this makes sense. At 8 seconds, it tells us the graph, boom, crosses the x-axis. That's when the ball, boom, hits the ground. And that's how you get letter E on question number 47. Making sure I was good. Good work.